Hey folks, we're back again to rescape this 25-gallon tank. I've done partial rescapes of this tank before, but this time I ripped everything out. It's time to really do some things differently. We're going to try something I haven't tried before and see how it goes. So the choice to use plenums in this tank was sort of an interesting one, and basically there's the hope that I'm going to get similar results that I get to the 20-gallon here behind me, or maybe the 43-gallon downstairs, which is just doing great. The fluval flora, the 15-gallon fluval flora that I set up, is definitely still in its early stages and frankly is behaving sort of badly. But I'm willing to kind of wait it out and see how it goes with that. And in the meantime, I thought it would be interesting to try sort of a mixture of techniques. So in that, I'm going to be mixing the ADA products in with some of the more basic products that I've used for these other plenum setups that I've done. There's a lot of debate, and fairly legitimate debate, over the relevancy of some of this. But I really feel like I've gotten a terrific, and it could be anecdotal, right? It could be anecdotal, but I feel like I've gotten a really good result. I've got numerous comments from people in the past that say that they've used this, done this sort of thing, and it's worked really well for them too. I mean, it was suggested to me for literally years before I finally tried it on this 20-gallon. And it's just been a really positive experience for me, and so I'm wanting to try it in a couple of different ways. So the idea is that we're going to create a void underneath the substrate. And on top of that void, I'm going to place clay. And so this clay in the form of cat litter. So this clay, when it goes in, is inert. There's nothing in there. It's sort of like a piggy bank to hold nutrients. And I'm packing that all around that area that's going to be the void underneath. So what hopefully will develop in that void is a lot of low oxygen bacteria. There'll be several things for the bacteria to eat, including the red clay powder that I always include, but also the power sand that I'm putting in there. That particular ingredient has a whole bunch of the nutrients. Now, if you've ever watched them set up one of the ADA tanks, they have a whole line of powders. So they throw all these, and I don't know the names of all of them. They're kind of unusual. They're not roll off the tongue kind of things to say. But instead of adding all those powders, they've put at least a portion of them. I don't think they did every one that they carry, but a portion of them have been sort of combined into this kind of gritty stuff they call power sand. And what it is a very large grain sand, the kind of porous. It's almost like gravel, like pumice stone gravel. I'm going to be pouring all of that on top of the cat litter and across the whole bottom of the tank. So then on top of that, ADA aqua soil. And a little bit, not a whole lot, but on top of that, I'm also going to include another soil of aqua. This soil, it sort of looks like aqua soil, but it's a lot easier to plant in. So of course, the first thing I had to do was clean this thing out, and that was a pain. A lot of scooping of materials and stuff, but I did it all up here on the carpet and everything, so somehow the carpet survived. After I got the whole thing cleaned up, it was time to make some choices with the plenums. And I decided that I was going to stack them up in the back. Okay, so the tank's all clean, ready to go. I've got an undergravel filter, or plenum, as I'm using it, positioned right here. And right here is the vent. This is the bottom vent. These tanks, of course, all these tanks, they'll have like a top area, then also a bottom one for the water to go through. My goal is for the water to move slowly from under here up through here, and this will provide a little bit of suction. I'm not actually sure how much. I guess it depends on the water level up the top of the tank. So what I'm going to do is take these other plenum pieces, and I'm going to build up on the back a little bit. I've decided to do it this way because I can make my aquascape sort of always have a real consistent slope from the top to the bottom just by kind of setting it up this way. And by stacking this up, I'm extending that void underneath here up beyond the fins of this part here. And hopefully that'll create a little point for things to be pulled from underneath. I'm not sure if I want to go all the way up or I just want to touch it. I think I want to stop there. Now this does present quite a high obstacle to go over. That means that my substrate is going to be probably up like this on the back. But in the old tank, the way it was before, it was anyway. The substrate was like right up to here on the old tank. So this isn't so much more. I probably could get away with one less of these though. Yeah, that just kind of gets it right up to the edge. I guess there's a chance of stuff falling in between and kind of getting in the way and maybe keeping this from being such a great pathway through here, but I think it'll work. We're going to try it anyway. The next thing I'm going to add in here is some laterite powder. Okay. And I'm going to add this on a couple of different layers in this tank. I like for it to have it on the bottom. It's a great food for bacteria, especially little starter bacterias and stuff. All this lined up again. I've knocked it around. That was not as precise as I thought it would be. The next layer is going to be cat litter. This is Special Kitty cat litter. And we picked this because of the clay content and the type of clay that it is. This is unscented, non-clumping, extremely inexpensive cat litter. I have rinsed this, which is why it looks sort of nasty here. I put it in without rinsing it before, but it seems like a lot of unnecessary dust when you could just rinse it off. This is my layer between the plenum and everything else that is inside this aquarium. I'm also going to use this to help keep this thing exactly where I want it to be. I'm not going to pile too much of this on top of there, especially on that part of it, because I have a few other things to put there, and it's going to be really tall as it is. You can also use oil dry, and in fact this is the last of my cat litter, and I think if I do this again I'll probably buy a bag of oil dry, but really just to try something else because this really hasn't been bad to work with. I think that would be sufficient, but I got one more cup, so I think I'm going to dump it right here at the back. Kind of help wedge this thing in so it stays where I want it to be. This will be the first one of these I put in without putting like an upspout for it, so I'm curious to see how dumb this is. And that is the end of the cheap substrate. From here on out, it's actually fairly expensive, pretty pricey. And we're going to start here with Nature Aquarium Power Sand S. Now, this stuff is porous gravel infused with all the good stuff that they use at the bottom of the ADA aquariums. So this is chock full of nutrients, a very, very healthy dose for that bottom layer. This stuff is fairly expensive, fairly difficult to find. Not a must by any means, but it's one of those treat yourself kind of things, I think. It does work. This stuff and the next layer, which is going to be Amazonia, another ADA product, is what is in the 16-gallon fluval downstairs. The fluval, I guess it's a fluval spec 16-gallon. All right. Pretty nice. And of course you put that in without any rinsing. That just comes right out of the bag. Yeah, that's a real close look at it. As you can see, it's mixed in a little bit with the cat litter on that side or over here. That's the very, very gray things. As you can see, it's mostly it just looks like gravel. It looks like kind of dirty gravel. But it's got all those nutrients mixed into it already. All those little powders and additives, they're all baked into this already. So you don't have to do anything. Now we're going to put in the Amazonia. Again, no washing on this. Let's start up here in the back. Using the whole bag. See how we do. Good bit of coverage here. All right. Well, bag seemed like plenty. All right. Alright, so thinking about hardscaping this tank, one option is to add this wood back from the original version of the aquarium, which isn't a terrible thing. It would go something like this, I think. Would probably work. That looks pretty good so far. We'll see what else I got here. I sort of like the direction that this is going in. I really liked this wood in this tank beforehand. But I've got these pieces of manzanita. These pieces still have their bark on them and stuff. I got them in an aquarium swap a long time ago. And I think I'd like to add them to sort of add a little drama inside here. I'm breaking them off because these pieces are just too large. And I'm going to stick them where they won't bother me too much. But I want them to kind of take up space in the background and be part of that. It's pushing this thing all around. I'll push you into the substrate a little bit. Hopefully this thing's waterlogged enough to kind of keep things calm underneath there. I don't tend to clean the background, so I'm not worried too much about accessibility here on the background. And what this will do is it'll give me a lot of spaces to put Anubias and things like that in here. And really add a really interesting sort of thickety element to this whole thing. I don't know if I can put more than that. It seems like an awful lot. I've been pulling plants out of the Megaflex for quite a few different projects, and it's starting to really get thinned out in there. I decided it was time to make some deep cuts though, and it provided me with a lot of really good healthy specimens that hopefully will live on and do great in this tank too. Alright, so I put a mechanical filter in here last night, just the sponges, just to kind of catch some debris and stuff that from the setup. But I'd like to go ahead and add in my biological filter. So I'm going to take these out and rinse them off. Although they're not super dirty, but they did just collect all the stuff from the setup here. And this is just kind of an eclectic set of sponges that I've gathered from around my house. I need to move this thing. I think what I did before is I had this over this way, and it gave me just enough room to to get things in and out of here. I'll just kind of pivot the light. Alright, let's see here. Put you out. So these back chambers are really, really large, and it gives the whole depth of the aquarium. So you can see it's quite a lot of space. There's a bevel on this side, and there's a bevel on this side, so that as the water goes down, it kind of keeps it at a certain level in here, so your biological stuff stays wet. So what I did is I took this bag, and this is just a resealable bag that I got from my aquarium box oh so long ago, and I filled it with some rings that I had, but I also went down to my sump and raided my sump, and I put a bunch of stuff from different types of biological things from my sump, as well as some leftover biomatrix that I had. So it's a nice eclectic grouping of biological materials. I even took a sponge that I had going in one of my sump baskets downstairs, and we're just going to drop that right down in the middle there, and that's going to be our biological filter. And we're just going to pop this mechanical filtration right on top of it, right down in here. I just have that there so it won't, nothing really bypasses. All right. And just a little extra here and there. This kind of holds it down. Now what I've done in the past is I've grown little plants out of here. In fact, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to pop a couple of little anubias or something. You could easily take like a little growing like that, stick it over here in the corner, and just grow out even more plants right there in the filter. I'm hoping this will keep shrimp from coming through and going all the way through, although I don't know if there's really a way to do that for sure. Shrimp have a tendency to just go wherever they want. It is kind of fun to just take an anubias and jam it in some kind of other scenario and see how it does. These things are really good. If you put them like right at the surface of the water, you can grow them out and get to where they're used to being out of the water, or at least partially out of the water, pretty easily. A lot more easily than you would think. Alright, so it's the next day and it's a big foggy mess, but I can see how it's going. I've just changed the filter out too, so it's that had a lot of material in it from the last tank, so I think that further made this even foggier, and I've rearranged some plants to kind of give, now that I've seen the whole thing and it's a little bit clearer, I've kind of rearranged some stuff. I've got some ideas for maybe a couple of other little elements. I'd like to maybe add some rocks in here and here. So I'm going to go downstairs and see if I can find maybe 3 rocks to add to this and kind of add to the aquascape. So normally I do my hardscape before I put things in. But I've decided now, and I wasn't going to add rocks in here, but I think I really would need another element. And I've got all these little pieces. Now these are little shards and pieces from dragonstone that I'm about to add in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of spreading some shards around, and I'm going to stick these in the ground. Now if things go well and things plant up really well, then we might not see a lot of these, especially these smaller pieces, for long. But I think adding them in here kind of adds a little bit of texture to the bottom. I probably could have washed these a little bit better. This is going to add a little bit of a texture to the bottom and maybe not make the big rocks that I put in here look so out of place. Like perhaps you can see a little bit of where they came from mixed in here. And I get these little tiny pieces from breaking these things up. Usually when I get some dragonstone, I'll break it up and I'll use the little pieces and components. It's just kind of messy to do this way though, but yeah, I guess I don't care. I've got to wait on this fog to clear anyway, so why not make it a little foggier? When I make an aquascape, I try to do a flow. Now we got the flow coming from back here and moving across the tank and then back out over there. So I try to make everything kind of feel like it's going with that flow of water. And that'll sort of include the rocks. So I'm going to kind of give them a little bit of a tilt and stuff. And this is my biggest one, I think. This first rock that I put in here is kind of large too. I think I'm going to move it. I'll move it out like that. In fact, I might go through and go ahead and prop up some of these little things. Just make them look like they're not flat on the ground. Right now, I don't feel like I want to do a carpeting plant. I think I'm going to try to slip a big rock here under this branch, though. Too much. Let's see. Yeah, got this big rock protruding. Plenty of room to get my hand around. I'm kind of a slave to the practical. That's why I haven't done any aquascapes with the wood coming out the top. To me, that sounds like something to be difficult to clean. And do a complementary stone over here. Boy, these are dirty. I really should have cleaned them first. And that's going to go in here, and I'm going to kind of, again, sort of, not exactly the same, pointing exactly the same way, but just sort of giving the impression that everything wants to kind of go in the same direction. And when you do big elements like this, you always want to do them in threes. And I think I've got the perfect little third monkey to add in here. Oh boy, dirty as can be. And it's going to go in right here. And you'll see it in a day or two when the water clears out. It might clear out enough. But I'm just going to kind of go choo 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 like that. And at least in the short term, that'll be a little extra eye candy in the foreground. I actually have a whole lot of these sort of medium size, not big, not small pieces. And I'm going to strategically add them around, pretty much all around. And we're going to use this instead of a carpet. We'll just do sort of a rocky carpet. I'm going to very mindfully place these in little piles here and there. Part of making this tank was an excuse to make another place to keep shrimp. And I like to try to keep shrimp with other creatures, and having little piles of rocks is great. Really great for that. Yeah, I really like this a lot better than just the plain black on the bottom there. Oh boy, that one was dirty. Yeah, these things are really just, I mean, a lot of them are just clay. Most of these I've used before and they aren't that dirty. Like you can tell, this one's been through a couple of aquariums. But these ones that are sort of brand new are really fogging it up. Boy, but it's nice when you got enough of them to really just kind of cover the whole front. Again, any that I place in here, I'm going to be mindful of that direction that I'm trying to give the impression of motion towards. Probably over time we'll grow plants, or the water will move around, the sands will shift around, and it'll swallow all this stuff. But in the short term, it should look pretty nice. I'm mainly going to rock up the front, and it'll be a lot easier to tell what's going on once I get, once the water clears up again from all the stuff that I've added in there. I'm going to try to add a few more rocks towards the back. You won't be able to see any of that. But then we'll come back and take a look when it cleans up. I think putting the rock like this, I'm hoping this will be sort of like one of those fake turtlenecks where it gives the impression that it's really rocky all the way through here, but really we'll just have plants and stuff covered in the wood, of course, will be covering the back here. So let's see what it looks like. Folks, it's been great hanging out once again. If you liked this video, don't forget to click like. It really helps a lot. If you feel like making a comment or want to let me know what you think of this project, or if you've got a project like this going on and you want to tell me all about it, feel free to do it down below. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to see you again. Until next time, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.